Give it a second to get started up.
You want me to just pick up when you leave off, or what?
Yeah, for the most part. And we're
Oh.
on. Surprise stream! Hello. I am Storm. This is J, Petit P. We are a little off schedule, but that's fitting for this considering what we're doing. We're pretty much going to be filling in the gaps of what happened before the battle with Brother Sistine in Fate Umbral Vale. Because we didn't start streaming it when we first started playing. That idea came up later, and we could have implemented it a little bit better.
It is what it is.
It is. So, the story so far. The year currently is 1894. We're going to start with character introductions of their backstories as they came up within the one shot, and then we'll go on to the plot itself. The party did a really good job of bridging the events when this first came up, but I felt it would be a good idea to just go over them proper. Starting with Rex. Rex Z. Wodim is a result of a marriage between prominent members of the Wodim and Zemlupus families, with the hopes that he would inherit the best qualities of both. Unfortunately, he had no great talent for astromancy or beast slaying. Ordinarily, he would have been discarded, but his parents pleaded to train him properly with the heads of their respective families. And so at 15, he was sent to train with the Seats of Clave Solish, a group of Magus mercenaries, tongue-tied, dedicated to the protection of Ireland's mystery. Over the years, he trained and became more proficient in combat until an important assignment arose. A treasure hunter named Malia Alexei Demarisk had come to Ireland for unknown reasons. After a brief struggle, the Seats retreated, sensing something wasn't quite right, and Rex was left behind in the struggle to face her alone when a woman in Japanese armor came to his rescue. When he awoke, Malia was gone and the woman was tending to his wounds. When asked why, she responded it was the right thing to do and left him there. With his family's disappointment on his shoulders, an opportunity came 5 years later in the form of a request from the current head of zoology in the clock tower, which led him to Schwarzwald, Germany.
For Minase. Minase Shizuka was abandoned by her family at 10 for her half-blood nature, being half yokai by the Sakagami family. She survived on the streets until she was picked up by the Yako family, who, seemingly aware of her powers, took her in and raised her until she was old enough to join the family and become an enforcer. As she grew older, she also grew in notoriety, even making friends with the younger daughter of the family head, Akira. As they grew closer, it became more and more apparent to Minase something was wrong. Akira didn't smell like a mage and often cringed over her right arm. Eventually, Akira confessed to Minase what was happening. Her family's magecraft created artificial divine organs to transplant into them, and she was holding the excess power her father could not, serving as his black chest. The family higher-ups caught wind that the secret had been leaked to Minase, and then sent her to a warehouse to be killed. In the process of her escape, Minase grabbed a weapon to defend herself and found a sword with a spirit attached to it, which demolished a warehouse around her. Seeking an escape, she went to a local informant who notified her of an opportunity in Schwarzwald, Germany's Black Forest, and she boarded the first ship bound out.
Honda Suzuki is a Kisune assassin in the service of the Yako family. In this day and age, phantasmal species are becoming rarer and rarer due to decline, but because of the magecraft of the Yako family, they're able to supply such beings with mana and have taken to raising them. At one point, the Yako had hundreds of Kisune under their care, but that number has dwindled to a mere 4 packs in recent years. Honda was taught to follow orders from his parents and his handler, Genma Yako, and was even promoted to personal bodyguard of the current Black Chest, Akira Yako. 1 month after he began... Oh wait, I'm sorry. I should have updated that. This was 4 years after he began his new position. He heard news of an explosion at a Yako warehouse. Shortly after, he received a letter from the head himself, Yukinobu Yako, telling him to abandon his bodyguard duties and locate a trader who had stolen something of great importance, an old English longsword. With these orders in hand, he left for Germany immediately.
Kyuhime Miyoji is the weaker half of a pair of twins. Greater magical circuits had seemingly come at the cost of her body, so while her twin trained to become a better magus, she was bedridden. One day her twin Mako was targeted by an attack that quickly ate through his magical circuits and killed him. Before his death, he asked Kyo to be a better head to the family than he would have been. This led Kiyohime to train her body to overcome her weak constitution and reclaim the years she lost. In the process of becoming healthier, she was able to observe more mage politics and quickly became disillusioned with the idea of becoming head of the family. Instead of following her brother's wishes, she took to training and meditating in magically concentrated areas in an attempt to slow her aging. On her 33rd birthday, she received a letter informing her that the current head had passed away and she needed to assume her duties as the new head. Believing herself not to be fit for the task, Kiyohime chose instead to leave for Germany at the behest of the head of zoology.
Layla Umbral is a prominent doctor who joined the Atlas Institute in search of new medical techniques and traveled here after an Atlas contract was invoked to serve as the party medic and heal everybody as they traveled through the lock. She's been disillusioned by some of the more extreme experiments of Atlas and had begun to have doubts regarding her work. Now that we have everything up to that point, the Millennium Lock Heist. The story begins at an unnamed castle in the German countryside just outside of the boundary of Schwarzwald. The party has arrived in the open invitation of Gabriel Chevalmure, the current head of zoology in Clock Tower, promising rewards in exchange for help in a trivial matter. Upon arriving, however, they find her outside with her husband Aaron and son Alistair, after an incident led to various chimera being stored there to escape. Layla reports to Gadriel per the contract, but Orin reveals he had used it to get her there earlier than intended due to Gadriel's annoyance. After some shenanigans involving some pretty powerful 2- and 3-headed goats, the party was finally able to sit and rest as Gadriel introduced them one by her findings. While the rest of the party enjoyed a nice meal, Alistair only drank a blue smoothie, to the rest of the party's notice. Unfortunately, Gadriel accidentally revealed Manase as a former Yako to Honda, who then also revealed himself, which almost brought the two to conflict before they came to a truce. Afterwards, Gadriel explained the situation. A friend of hers named Malia had recently disappeared inside of Schwarzwald, and she had become worried something had happened. She offered them her aid in future endeavors and favors in exchange for finding Malia and the item she was searching for, a large pot holding a stick inside it. Their guide would be a man named Abelard Fyodor Wolschroeder, who knew the forest well. After the party accepted the request, Gadriel invited Layla upstairs to complete the first part of the Atlas contract, revealing a gruesome sight. Alistair on a table with his arm severed, and Orin raging at his wife for her recklessness. Layla was able to stabilize him, but Gadriel seemed enamored at his arm, which bore crimson sigils on the back of his hand. Manase caught her coming back downstairs and found bloodstains on her clothes, but chose not to pursue it.
Once the party was ready, they headed out, being led by Abelard through the forest and running into some of the wildlife, such as the forest of Einash, a living forest of monstrous trees intent on eating anyone who came close. After a fierce battle, they run through an area filled with black fog. They arrived at their true destination, the Millennium Lock, home of Callback Alcatraz. Abelard apologized for the deception on his part, but he needed their help getting his wife out of the lock safely, and working with Gadriel was the only way he had to get through the forest. The apology is brushed off, and they begin their journey to Offenburg, his hometown. On the way there, they're accosted by a group of priests from the church before they get a break in the form of a sandstorm being kicked up by their leader, Father Lamond, as he fights an unnamed woman in Japanese armor. At this point, the church had been invading for roughly a week. Abelard had left with Malia to test to see if he could survive outside the lock, and while he would need a breathing apparatus or a monodense environment, it was possible. Malia was then supposed to bring his wife Annalise with her on her exit from the lock. Once they arrived in Offenburg, the group realized they had a tag-along in the form of Rourke Morobe, an exorcist for the church looking to defect after becoming disillusioned with the actions they were taking against half-humans and phantasmal species. While they were there, they realized that some better equipment would be in order to better fight off an entire church crusade, at which point Abelard introduced them to his associate Gastolfo, who would go treasure hunting with him. The lock had no shortage of mages who came looking to pillage materials and died in the process, usually getting dragged down to the nest of some local vampire spawn. Gastolfo took an interest in Minase's pistol and started working on schematics before suggesting she vet Kata, an old mage living nearby who gave her an impromptu lesson in beast magecraft, before heading out to hunt for his dinner. Afterwards, they began their trek into the cavern north of Offenburg, short one Honda, who stayed behind to guard their new priest friend. As they went through the caves, they came to a larger cavern where they were ambushed by Kitsune assassins sent by the Yako clan, who had somehow tracked the party to Schwarzwald and entered the Millennium Lock as a scouting party. They accused Minase of conspiring with Honda in order to kidnap Akira Yako, who disappeared the day Honda left. After some combat, they left one alive named Ishida, who went to report to his superiors, though it was unclear if he truly believed them.
Once the Kitsune were gone, they were free to loot as they pleased, pulling some very unique mystic codes from the pile of vampire-spawned food, before realizing the lock's properties had interfered with the item's decomposition and altered their abilities slightly, or even affecting them as far as to give them pseudo-personalities. On the way out from their fight with the Kitsune, the party investigated natural crystals in the cave, with unique properties bearing the mana of Kabak Alcatraz. It was then pointed out these crystals bore the same scent as Alistair's smoothie, as well as Abelard himself, though he couldn't seem to smell it. Once the party was back in town, they attempted to bring their new mystic codes to someone who could fix or buy them, where they were referred to Valois Coingenbarnt, a mage who specialized in the restoration and alteration of mystic codes, and Gastolfo's former ex-partner. After some haggling, she agreed to fix their mystic codes for a reduced price, but at the cost of bringing her with them when they left the lock. After that, the party visited Gastolfo to ask about the crystals and whether or not they were safe to ingest. After Abelard revealed that Gadriel had replaced his organs under the guise of helping him survive in the modern day, the connection was made. She was blending up these crystals with some of Abelard's former organs and feeding them to her son. While the effects were still unknown, the possibility remains that this concoction of Dead Apostle mana could turn Alistair into a vampire spawn or worse. Upon receiving their modified mystic codes, the next day the party, now eager to return and confront Gadriel, set out for a mine just north of Offenburg near Gungenbach. According to Rourke, this mine stretched from one side of the valley to the other and would take them straight to Haslock, where the church had been stationed. As they descended into the mine, more secrets of the lock began to reveal themselves. The crystals they had formerly assumed were natural were actually crystallized mana from the victims of the vampire spawn here. After an extended period of guilt she could no longer bear, Layla confessed what had happened to Alistair, and explained the horrific scene she had walked in on, and how she had managed to save him. The party also learned of the mysterious red symbols on his hand, and how Gadriel was obsessing over them.
With this information in hand, they made for Haslock post-haste, and stumbled upon an underground city in a style foreign to the lock. The buildings were made of a yellow sandstone, and the area was completely devoid of water. The only thing that could have made the scene stranger was the train that had crashed into the largest building and now rested in a permanent incline. After a brief confrontation with a set of ghosts who took the form of people from the party's past, they made their way through the temple and into the train, which was revealed to be a prototype rail zeppelin, taking refuge in its safe area which protected them from ghosts. While there, Layla picked the safe and found a mystic eye of fear-inducing, which was given to Rex, and Rourke had a heart-to-heart with Minase regarding her demonic heritage and his faith. After a while, they managed to sneak out and began making their way up the tunnel that would lead them to Haslock. During this time, more speculation was thrown around regarding Gadriel's motives and the role of Malia, who apparently had come to the lock some time ago. Just before reaching Haslock, the party experienced a small earthquake as Father Lambert had finally managed to rid himself of his attacker by destroying the ground beneath her and sending her into the mines below. While priests were combing the area, the party raced to find her first and reached a group of priests led by Brother Sistine confronting her under a sakura tree, which seemed out of place in the mines.
And more or less, that's everything that happened before we started streaming. Hopefully this helps to clear up the party's motivations and put their actions into some better context. Is there anything I missed, Jay? Anything you can think of?
Not really. That's basically there's like little details that I can't remember anymore because it was such a long time ago. But I think that's the general gist of it, yeah.
Oh.
Or all the important stuff that happened, really.
As a quick aside, the reason why Abelard's organs are a plot point is because he spent so much time in the lock that any of the humans living there now have effectively become phantasmal species due to overexposure. They straight up cannot survive in the modern day without external forces helping them to, because it's so thin. Imagine living on top of a mountain your whole life and then coming down to the base of it.
Well, no, it would be closer to the opposite.
Either or. Basically, he can't breathe. He needs an inhaler. Abelard asthmatic confirmed.
Mhm.
Um, I'm pretty sure the stuff with Sister Claire happened after we started streaming.
Yeah, we didn't come into contact with Sister Claire until afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Um, what else? What else? Not really that much I can think of. I'm pretty sure that is actually everything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that didn't happen before we started streaming it.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then I think that's about as far as we need to go for this video. Thank you to everybody who's watching for your support. We hope to see you soon. Next year, we'll be going into the Grail War itself, and we'll have a few other things waiting in the meantime. Until then, stay